We start with President Obama. David Sanger's chief Washington correspondent for the New York Times. And Tyler Drumhauer, of course, is the former chief of operations for the CIA in Europe. David, congratulations for this story. You got it. The Times had it. Explain it to me. Here's the headline before you start. I'm sorry. Bigger raid unit braced for fight with Pakistanis, and Obama feared trouble. Here's the lead paragraph. President Obama insisted that the assault force hunting down Osama bin Laden last week be large enough to fight its way out of Pakistan if confronted by hostile local police officers and troops. Senior administration and military officials said Monday. David, explain.
Well, the initial plan, Chris, had been for the two attack helicopters, the two that actually landed at the compound, to come into the compound, and for two backup helicopters to remain in Afghanistan to lower the American footprint and the violation of Pakistani sovereignty. As it was described to us, when President Obama looked at the plan, he ended up concluding that it would take about 90 minutes for those helicopters to come in and be of any help if, in fact, a firefight broke out. And so he pressed for adjustments to the plan, and that ultimately led to the decision to bring in the 4 helicopters, one of which, you may recall, was used because one of the attack helicopters, of course, had that hard landing and had to be destroyed ultimately. They didn't get into a firefight, but I think the importance of the story is that it indicates that President Obama was willing to risk what would have been a pretty huge blow-up with the Pakistanis, even larger than what you've seen now, in order to get those troops out of the country.
Tell me about what you know from reporting about how justified that decision was.
Well, I think that it was a precaution that was built into an assumption that if they had called the Pakistanis to say after the attack began, don't worry, these helicopters are American, the U.S. is going after Osama bin Laden, that they might not be able to get through to the right officers, that the word might not get passed on to the area of the compound. Remember, the Pakistanis were completely in the dark about this operation.
Were we prepared to fight Pakistani troops or even local militia or local prefix types like police if they got in our way and said, turn over that prisoner to us? Would we have fought our way out then?
I suspect so. The instructions that the Americans were given were avoid a confrontation at all cost with the Pakistanis. But they also didn't want to be in a situation where the American units were either in a firefight or captured by Pakistani troops. And remember, this is a garrison town. I mean, there's the equivalent of Pakistan's West Point is about a little under a mile from the site of this house. So the possibility that the Pakistani units could have responded more quickly, I think, was pretty high. As it turned out, the Pakistanis responded very slowly.
Let me go to Tyler on this. I can't imagine this in many other countries that we have good relations with. We have diplomatic relations even to say we're going to go in there against your sovereignty. You get in our way. This is our guy. We're taking him out. You get in our way, we're going to shoot.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, this is an unusual situation because you've got relations with Pakistan, but you've also got what the goal of the operation was, and the fact was that the president took responsibility for this, which is really admirable, and then having gone in, realized that going into something like this halfway is more dangerous than not going in all the way, and having the risk of SEALs being captured or worse. Once you commit to something like this, you've really got to push very hard to make it come through without any disaster.
Did we, is there any evidence, I don't want to get too pushy on this because I think we did exactly the right thing. Most Americans, will show you a poll, believe that too. But was there any attempt to bring this guy home alive?
I suspect not. I mean, I don't know, but frankly, it's. I don't think you send the SEALs to arrest people, so it's.
It sounds rough, but it sounds like
circumstance.
You don't send the SEALs to arrest people. That's pretty rough. Your sense of this, Tyler, the same question: is this something that the SEALs or any government force would do in a situation where a guy is behind this thing? David, your thoughts?
Well, Chris, the instructions that they had are my two colleagues, Tom Shanker and Eric Schmidt, have reported back from the Pentagon, were if he surrendered, they had a unit in place outside of Pakistan, of course, to go interrogate him and so forth. And they had a separate unit for if he was killed in the operation. I think there was a presumption going in that he would likely be killed, that he would likely be arrested, that he would likely not sit around to be arrested, and that there would be no interrogation. But they were certainly prepared for that possibility.
Why were they prepared to interrogate him right away, not bring him back to someplace in the United States or some other place to interrogate? Why would you send a team in to interrogate him after picking him up right away?
Well, I think that the shock value would be something. They'd want something right away.
Let's take a look at the new NBC poll numbers backing up what I said. 80% now say of Americans it was the right decision to kill bin Laden. I really don't know who these other people were. Anyway, 64% say President Obama was right to not release the photos. I found that heartening and thoughtful. Let's take a look at this one. Here's the public's opinion of President Obama's leadership, how it's improved since December based upon this. We're looking at those numbers. They're all in the low 50s right now. Nothing dramatic. I guess this isn't really a question for you folks because you're experts on the question of doing it or not. But this thing about the bin Laden photo, I want to start with Tyler on this. My sense has been you don't wave this in the face of your enemy. If you want the war on terror, which is really a bad term, war on terror, if you want the terrorism against the United States to subside, don't try to ignite more of it.
Yeah, I didn't really see the use in releasing it. The people that are going to believe it are going to believe it. The people that don't believe it are going to believe it's an altered photo anyway. So it doesn't really serve a purpose except maybe to inflame some people that are in between. But in fact, having made the decision, the important thing is to stick to it, and that's good. They didn't equivocate in the end.
What can you report on that, David? What was this in the paper? I read one of the papers today, USA or somebody, there's some new discussion of it. Why are people discussing something that's been decided?
You know, in the end, I think the important fact here is that al-Qaeda bailed them out on this because by last Thursday, at least one al-Qaeda affiliate was reporting, yes, Osama bin Laden is dead. And you haven't heard since that announcement came out a whole lot of doubts expressed. I'm sure there are some in Pakistan. But you haven't seen very much pressure on the White House to release that photo ever since the president made the decision. And I think that's because there seems to be an acknowledgement among the terror groups, or at least among some al-Qaeda affiliates, that in fact that was Osama bin Laden.
Are you surprised by that?
I was surprised that they admitted it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Your thoughts, Tyler. Are you surprised that they didn't seize upon the propaganda goal of sort of creating the notion he's mythically still alive somewhere, that this was some sort of trick?
No, I think the people that announced it, I think they were stunned or they were ready to give. The other story going around Pakistan right now is that Ayman Zawahiri set him up to be killed, and there's an alternate story going around, so that he could take over.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, honor among thieves or whatever, the opposite of that. Here's Pakistan's Prime Minister on Monday. Let's listen to him.
No other country in the world and no other security agencies has done so much to interdict al-Qaeda than the ISI and our armed forces.
What do you make of that, David Sanger? Their claim that by the Prime Minister there that they've done a noble effort, although I notice it sort of skirts the question of whether they tried to pick up Osama bin Laden. It simply said they're working hard against, the ISI is working hard against al-Qaeda generally. I didn't like that. I didn't think that was a very clear answer to the challenge put to them.
Well, you know, the remarkable thing about the ISI over the years is that they have been allied with the U.S. in the hunt for al-Qaeda on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, but Tuesdays and Thursdays, they've been off on their own agenda, particularly in alliances with the Taliban, or at least implicit ones. So, yeah, I thought two interesting elements to the Prime Minister's statement. The first was to make the case that Pakistan itself was great at hunting terrorists, but obviously he never answered the question of how Osama bin Laden could live in a garrison town this close to the capital for this long.
Yeah.
The second thing he said was, if you ever try this again with our strategic weapons, meaning the nuclear weapons, there'll be not only a big breach but a big reaction. And this gets to the central paranoia that this has brought about in Pakistan, which is a United States force that could get in under the radar and get Osama bin Laden might be able to get in under the radar and seize or immobilize some portion of the nuclear force, which is their biggest single fear.
Your thought, Tyler, on that question? We have to end with this.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the long-term fear is the security of the nuclear weapons, but also remember Pakistan is a democratic country. They have elections. He's speaking to the people of Pakistan. He's not speaking to the world there, and so he's trying to answer the question without answering the question. And this is not an unusual way to handle this. He's addressing some of the issues without answering.
Well, it's great news tonight to hear once again that there was a clear thinking behind this raid by us and by our people and by the commander at the top, that the president was wise enough to set the precaution ahead of time. This wouldn't be an undermanned force, and even if we were threatened by a local constabulary, at least we'd be able to bluff our way out of there with force. Thank you so much. I'm so glad it didn't go to a fight. Thank you so much, David Sanger, for great reporting for the New York Times, and Tyler Drumhauer, thank you for your wisdom.